Why does silence sometimes scream louder than words? A gust of cold air bites, shadows cast by fading daylight flicker on weathered walls. In that quiet storage area, a mother shields her children with bent shoulders and steady eyes, defying a world that refuses to see her. No warmth, only grime and grime, a makeshift table, yet it's here they gather. No decorations, no cheers, just the quiet resilience of those trying to survive, holding on to dignity like it's all they have. The children sit stiffly, Sophie Brooks's fork nudging sweet potato pie, Ethan Brooks's jaw clenched tight. No complaints, no tears, silent strength. A shift, a whisper. Maybe hope is just a fragile thing that whispers softly, not shouting, just waiting for a moment to be heard. And then a limo glides into view. A stranger steps out, tall, polished, commanding. Her words cut through the stillness. An entirely different world. An outsider. A challenge. Hope whispers louder now. What's next? The scent of cornbread drifted through the cool November air, mingling with the faint decay of grime and a distant leaf rustle. It's funny how, even in a world that often feels invisible, where you're overlooked like a shadow in the background, that smell can slam you back to better days. I could hear the quiet laughter of my kids, Sophie Brooks and Ethan Brooks, bubbling softly just behind me. That sound, so innocent and pure, both fills my heart and weighs it down. How did it come to this? What did we do to deserve a life where your own reflection feels like a stranger, and the holidays mean a time to pretend everything's fine? Memories of past Thanksgivings flood my mind. Aunt Veronica's hearty laugh, Grandma's gentle hands guiding us through those big relatives' dinners, overflowing with food, comfort, and warmth. Now, those memories feel like whispers, barely within reach. Yet, amid the chaos of this humble storage area, something keeps me rooted. Love. It's quiet, unwavering. I look at my children and wonder, can they really find safety here? Or are we just pretending that that's enough? The promise I made myself last year, that this would be the last holiday spent in shadows, feels like a small, fragile thing now. Still, I hold on to it. How do I keep their innocence intact in a world that's always trying to hold them down? I brush a strand of Sophie Brooks's hair, sensing her hope, so true and unbreakable. The way Ethan Brooks clutches his guarded distance, brave and careful. How do they survive it all? Then, out of nowhere, a sleek limousine slides into view, cutting through the worn silence like a sharp blade. From it steps a woman, tall, confident, so polished she seems a different universe. Her voice, crisp and commanding, cuts through the evening calm. She's an outsider, wealthy, powerful, watching us. That moment feels like a challenge or maybe a gift. What's next? The world outside feels so far removed, yet somehow she's here, reminding us that opportunity and hardship ride side by side. And I wonder, what stories do we carry behind our quiet strength? The scent of sweet potato pie curls through the air, mixing with the faint, rain-like scent of grime outside. It hits me, the memories, vivid and sharp, rushing back like a whirlwind. Laughter echoing from childhood Thanksgivings, Aunt Veronica's booming laugh, Grandma's gentle hands guiding us around bustling tables filled with warmth and love. But today, that warmth feels miles away. Instead, there's an almost suffocating chill, a silence broken only by the rustle of leaves outside and the distant hum of distant ordinary life slipping past these worn walls. I watch Sophie Brooks and Ethan Brooks, so innocent, so resilient, hope flickering in their eyes. How do they hold on to that hope? Despite everything, I cling to a promise I made last year. This isn't how it's supposed to be. Not forever, but the gap between what we deserve and what we've got, it widens every day. My heart tightens. Can they find safety in this chaos, Or are we just pretending it's enough? I brush Sophie Brooks's hair gently, craving that childhood innocence they're fighting so desperately to keep. And just as I start to wonder if anything will ever shift, a sleek limousine slides into view, silent and commanding. The door opens. A woman steps out, so poised, so polished. Wealth drapes her like a foreign language. Her eyes scan us, her presence a stark contrast to my humble chaos. Her voice pierces the quiet, sharp and precise. Looking for the house owner? I feel that question land like a punch, yet inside something stirs, an unspoken challenge, maybe a glimmer of what's possible now. Out here, the world feels frozen, yet her arrival stirs it alive again. What secrets are hidden behind her perfect mask? What stories do we carry beneath our quiet resilience? As she walks past, I wonder, does she see us, or is she just passing through, unaware of the weight we carry every day? This is more than a holiday visit. It's a moment caught between hope and despair, between invisibility and the desire to be seen. And in that silence, I realize, we survive, not because we forget where we come from, but because we refuse to let go of what keeps us going. Love, resilience, that fragile flicker of belonging, even in a world that tries to forget us. I didn't get it at first. The storage area. I kept repeating it, almost laughing like it was some messed up joke. She just nodded, dead serious. Yeah, you're used to scraps, right? The room went silent. No one said a word. Suddenly, I knew exactly where I was. Back where I always was, invisible, unwanted, pushed aside like a stray dog sneaking through the back door. My kids looked up at me, eyes wide with unspoken questions. I forced a smile. I took the paper plates from her hands and quietly led them out to the storage area. That place, cold isn't enough to describe it. Not just bitterly chilly, but emotionally frozen too. A draft sneaked through the sides, the concrete floor soaking up the little warmth that was there, leaving us shivering beneath layers of grime and neglect. It was a space not made for relatives, for warmth. It smelled like oil, cardboard, a heavy layer of grime and abandonment. Against the far wall, a makeshift table, 2 rickety chairs, a lone crate. Nothing more. No cloth, no centerpiece, just a roll of paper towels and some frail-looking utensils. An old booster seat, dusty and silent, sitting in the corner like a cheap insult. Ethan Brooks slid into a chair, slowly, cautious. Sophie Brooks reached out, touching my hand softly. "Is this where we're eating?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. I nodded. Her little face didn't alter. She just climbed onto the crate, resting her elbows on the table, trying to seem brave, trying to act like it's normal. Her small dress was bunched awkwardly. Liu didn't do anything wrong. That's what she kept telling herself. Quiet in that battered kitchen, eyes fixed on the cracked linoleum. But outside, they were inside. The ones who mattered, the ones who had the spark, the smiles, the words she longed for. And here she was, out here, invisible. It didn't feel like relatives anymore. It felt like another border she'd crossed, another line she couldn't step back across. Her breath hitched, something raw and heavy in her chest. Exhaustion, maybe, or despair. She'd spent years trying to break through those barriers, trying to prove she belonged. But it was always the same. The distant, fake laughter, the cold avoidance. She'd wanted to march back in, flip that table, scream until her voice cracked, to toss their fake kindness right back at them, to tell them she wasn't just some background noise. But instead, her gaze fell on her kids. And that's where everything changed. Shame. Not because she'd done wrong, but because she'd let it get this far. Because she'd dragged her children into the mess, into feeling like outsiders. Year after year, she'd convince herself maybe this time it'd be different. Maybe if she just kept saying, "Thank you," smiled enough, worked harder, stayed quiet, maybe they'd see her. But reality chewed her up every single time. She was still out here, still in the storage area, standing on the edge of a shadow she couldn't escape. It wasn't just about a table. It was about the whispers. You're not really relatives. You don't matter. You're an inconvenience. Watching her children's faces, even Sophie Brooks, who tried to act brave with her small shoulders squared and her soft voice asking, "Is this where we eat?" Even she felt that cold draw. They all did. Ethan Brooks's jaw clenched again. His voice was vacant when he finally asked, "Can we just go?" No anger, no sadness, just flat emptiness, like he was already resigned to the ache that would seep in. It hurt worse than tears, that hollow tone. She reached over, squeezing his shoulder, a fragile, desperate attempt to hold on to something real. Silence stretched tight, the kind that fills a room like smoke. They sat there, slow, silent, eating whatever was left. Crumbs, maybe, while voices and laughter echoed through the thin walls like hollow promises. She could hear Veronica's laughter, bright, sharp, out of reach, as if taunting her from some distant stage. Sometimes all she wanted was to be seen, to be recognized as part of something real. But tonight, she only felt the sharp sting of being an outsider. And somewhere deep down, she wondered, what does it take for that invisible wall to finally come down? And then, my mother's soft voice floated through the air, casually mentioning how the wine was just perfect this year. Not a word about us, no acknowledgement, not even a half-hearted attempt. That's when Sophie Brooks broke the silence. "I miss our house," Ethan Brooks chimed in. "It's not little, it's just enough." My heart ached at their words, but I held back tears. I forced a smile, even though it felt like my face might crack under the pressure. "We'll go home soon. When we do, we'll make hot chocolate, play Monopoly, and be thankful for what we have, not what they think we should want." They nodded, but a realization hit me like a cold wave. This wasn't my relatives anymore. Blood ties make you relatives, but behavior makes you relatives. And my true relatives was right in front of me. As I started to clean up our plastic plates, preparing to leave, I couldn't resist glancing back at the house one last time. That's when headlights sliced through the darkness, illuminating the driveway. A long, sleek black car glided in, quiet and imposing. A limousine, not just any visitor's SUV or one of Blake's work clients. This was different. Tinted windows, a driver in a cap. Ethan Brooks squinted through the grime on the storage area window. Did the engine just shut off? We held our breath, and then the back door opened. A woman stepped out, and everything shifted. The limousine door didn't swing open. It eased out slowly, deliberately, as if the person inside knew they had everyone's attention, even from the storage area. I stood frozen, hands gripping the sides of the plastic plate I hadn't thrown away yet. The kids were still, too. They sensed it wasn't normal. You don't get random limousines showing up in quiet suburban neighborhoods on Thanksgiving Day. Ethan Brooks leaned closer to the window. "Mom, do you see that?" I nodded, my heart racing. The house fell eerily silent. Through the tiny glass square in the storage area door, I caught glimpses of silhouettes behind the living room window. Heads turned, curtains shifted. What was waiting behind those shining doors? Would this moment shatter or reshape the fragile haven we'd built? Just as the door began to edge open, a new secret began to whisper. What comes next? The woman pauses just outside the storage area, her presence commanding yet oddly gentle. Her silhouette, tall and poised, stands against the dull glow of the street lamp. She's wrapped in a long navy coat, a subtle sign of wealth, understated but undeniable. Nobody expects someone like her to appear right here, in this humble neighborhood, on a night like this. There's an almost surreal stillness, like the rain's hold on the world has paused. Then she speaks. her voice smooth, calm, unhurried. "Excuse me," she says as if asking for directions in a quiet bookstore, not breaking the night's tension. "I'm looking for the owner of this house." And suddenly the air thickens. I think of Veronica, of the walls we built to keep the world out, of what it means when an outsider crosses that line. I hesitate, then gesture toward my Rachel Carter inside. "That's my Rachel Carter. She's inside." The woman nods, tilting her head. "And you are Callie." Callie Rivers, me, staring, trying to read her. Then she speaks again, slow and deliberate. "You're exactly who I came to see." The quiet explodes in my mind. Who is she? Why here? My heart pounds. Sophie Brooks clutches my hand, her small fingers trembling. Ethan Brooks straightens, eyes guarded, ready to face something unknown. I feel the weight of the moment. Do I know her, or is this a stranger asking for something I can't see? She cracks a faint smile. "My name is Margot Ellington. I run Women Forward. We work with community outreach, mentorship programs across the state." She pauses, a déjà vu flickering in her eyes. "About 5 years ago, you volunteered at one of our shelters." A chill drifts in, as if her words are a thread pulling through our quiet chaos. A link, a reminder, or maybe a warning. Right then, the night feels thicker, heavier. And yet, somehow, this moment tells a different story. About resilience, about unseen threads connecting us all, about the quiet strength of those who stand up even when the world looks away. Who is she really, and what happens next? The sun dips below the cracked horizon, casting long shadows over the dilapidated porch where the women gather, tense and silent. Una's trembling hand clutches an old photograph, her promise to her children now fading. A distant siren wails, echoing the chaos she fears is about to unfold. The faint glow of city lights flickers as a sleek limousine pulls up silently, its windows reflecting more than just wealth. Hidden secrets loom. Will she step out of her fragile comfort zone, or retreat into the shadows of her fears? You wrote a series of blog posts afterward, raw and honest, beautifully crafted. My eyes widened. I remembered that. It was right after I left my husband. He was crashing on a friend's couch with the kids, scraping together every penny I could. I spent my evenings volunteering at a women's shelter just to feel useful again. I wrote about the experience, not to be noticed, but to process. I posted it on a personal blog with maybe 20 readers. "I've been following your writing ever since," she continued. "You have a way of making people feel seen. We need that now more than ever." I couldn't think. I just stared. She went on. "We're putting together a speaker series for our national summit next spring. I'd like you to be our opening keynote. We'll handle everything: travel, accommodations, childcare, if you need it. And we're offering a publishing contract for your story. Your voice matters, Callie, and it deserves to be heard." I didn't answer right away. I felt the weight of the moment, warmth creeping up my neck, disbelief washing over me. Part of me thought someone like her couldn't possibly be here for someone like me. Ethan Brooks finally broke the silence. "Wait, she wants you to speak?" Sophie Brooks turned to me, eyes wide, hopeful. "Because of your writing?" Margot looked at them both and said, "Because your mom is extraordinary." And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. I glanced back toward the house. I couldn't see their faces, but I knew they were watching. Confusion, tension, disbelief rippled from the living room all the way to the storage area. They had shoved me out here to keep me small, but now a limousine had pulled into their driveway, and a woman in a navy coat was asking for me. I turned back to Margot. I nodded. Yes, I'd be honored. And just like that, everything began to shift. Margot extended her hand, not with grand gestures, but with a quiet confidence that spoke volumes. She wasn't just offering an opportunity. She was offering respect. real, long overdue respect. As I stepped forward, my fingers wrapped around hers, something inside me shifted. I stood taller, not out of pride, but from recognition, the kind that comes when someone finally sees you for who you truly are. "I'll grab my coat," I said, almost breathless. "You won't need it," she smiled. "We'll take good care of you." Ethan Brooks clutched our leftovers like they were treasures, while Sophie Brooks slipped her hand into mine, her eyes sparkling as if she were watching a movie and realizing her mom was the star. We followed Margot out to the limousine, the crisp November air brushing against our faces like a whisper of new beginnings. As we climbed into the car, I glanced back at the house. That's when I noticed them. The curtains in the formal dining area were parted just enough to reveal the scene. Veronica stood frozen, a wine glass in hand, her mouth slightly agape as if she couldn't process what was unfolding. Blake hovered behind her, his arm hanging limply at his side. My mother sat at the end of the table, eyes narrowed, trying to make sense of it all. They looked confused. Not angry, not embarrassed, just stunned, as if the universe had flipped the script and handed the spotlight to the person they'd pushed into the shadows. The car door closed with a soft thud, sealing us into a world that, for once, felt like mine. The seats were soft and warm, the dim lights inside calming. Margot spoke to the driver through a small window, then turned her attention back to me. "We have dinner reservations downtown. I thought we'd discuss the summit, the contract, and what kind of support you'll need for the next few months." I nodded, still in disbelief. "Wow. Yes, that sounds perfect." Sophie Brooks leaned in, her voice a whisper. "Is this what it's like to be famous?" In that moment, I realized we were stepping into a new chapter. A chapter where our struggles didn't define us, but our resilience did. A chapter where we could finally be seen. I laughed, not from pride, but from the kind of joy that sneaks up when you least expect it. "No, baby," I said softly. "This is what it really feels like to be respected." Across the table, Ethan Brooks sat with those quiet, observant eyes, soaking it all in. He didn't speak, but his shoulders. They finally relaxed. He looked proud, really proud, for the first time in what felt like forever. As the limo eased away from the house, I stole one last glance in the side mirror. The house looked smaller now, figuratively, not in size, but in significance. I'd outgrown it in a way that words can't quite capture. That place, that life, no longer held the weight it once did. I wasn't fighting for a seat at that table anymore. I was building my own. A table where my children would never, ever wonder if they belonged, because they already do. That dinner, it felt like stepping into a dream. Linen tablecloths, real silverware, warm bread breaking in my hand, servers calling me ma'am, like I mattered. But the real magic wasn't the food or the fancy decor, it was the conversations. Margot wanted to hear my story, really hear it, not to judge, not to fix, just to understand. When I told her about balancing work and motherhood, how people sometimes make you feel invisible, she nodded, listening. She took notes as I described staying up late writing blogs, Sophie Brooks's color-coded applications, Ethan Googling how to pay rent when I buried my head in my hands in the kitchen. "We need your voice," she said gently. People assume inspiration comes from grand, glamorous lives, but it's the quiet ones, the ones who keep showing up, even when no one's watching, who show the most courage. When the check arrived, she waved it away. "You've already paid enough," she said softly. The ride home was peaceful. No words needed. Because sometimes silence holds everything. And in that stillness, there's a promise. Maybe, just maybe, this is the beginning of something bigger than all of us ever expected. The street hums low, the glow of streetlights casting shadows on cracked pavement. Inside that modest house, the muffled sounds of quiet resistance cling to the walls, hearts pounding, voices strained, a weight no one else can see. Just outside, a sleek limousine pulls up silently. Its polished silhouette cuts through the dark, an outsider stepping out, tall and commanding, eyes holding stories of wealth and uncertainty. She pauses, her heels striking pavement, as her gaze fixates on the small, humble home. A flicker of curiosity, a trace of hesitation, and then she raises her hand. Will she knock? The breeze catches her coat, whispers of rain scent the air. The house seems to hold its breath. Whatever awaits behind those doors, could this be the moment everything shifts? Or is it the beginning of new secrets, ready to unravel, to turn lives inside out? As silence settles, one thing's clear: nothing will be the same now. The money wasn't life-changing, but the validation, that was everything. Ethan started writing too. He keeps a journal now, and just last week he shared a poem with me titled, "Chairs Don't Make the Table." He doesn't talk much about that Thanksgiving anymore, but I can tell it left a mark. He's learning to turn those feelings into something beautiful. Sophie is still Sophie, curious and kind, always observing. She asked if we could host Thanksgiving this year, just us and a few friends. No folding chairs, she insisted, only couches, pillows, and warm food. So we did it. Our living room was too small for everyone to sit together, but no one cared. People ate on laps and floors, laughter filling the air as they shared seconds. Candles flickered, music played softly, and love wrapped around us like a cozy blanket. No one asked why we weren't at Veronica's, and I didn't offer an explanation. My mom sent a brief message that morning, just 2 lines. "Hope you're well, miss you sometimes." I stared at it for a while before replying. "We're doing fine, hope you are too." No anger, no bitterness, just peace. Here's what I've learned since that day in the storage area. You can waste years trying to earn the love of people who don't know how to give it, or you can give that love to yourself and watch how it transforms everything. There's power in walking away. There's power in building your own table. And sometimes, when you least expect it, the world shows up with a limousine, reminding you that just because they didn't see your worth doesn't mean it wasn't there. It was. It always was. Maybe being sent to the storage area wasn't the insult I thought it was. Maybe it was the spotlight I didn't know I needed. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever felt small, invisible, or not good enough, know that you're not alone. You never were. We all deserve a seat at the table. But if they won't make space for you, build your own. Trust me, the right people will show up. As the woman steps out of the limousine, the harsh sunlight catches the tears streaking her face. Her exhausted eyes have witnessed too much. The distant hum of city life blends with a pounding heartbeat, echoing her relentless hope amid despair. Her shoulders tremble slightly as she steels herself to face the unknown. Will it be opportunity or threat? In this fragile moment, her dignity and her relative's future hang in the balance. A flicker of resilience sparks within her, signaling that even in her quiet strength, she's on the cusp of transformation. Rachel Carter, her Rachel Carter, stands nearby, embodying unflinching acceptance. Together, they navigate the weight of poverty and social exclusion, determined to survive while maintaining their dignity. They've learned that relatives is everything, even when the world feels heavy. Ethan Brooks, their brother, has found solace in writing. His journal is a refuge, a place where he transforms his feelings into poetry. Sophie Brooks, their little Rachel Carter, remains curious and kind, always observing. She dreams of hosting a holiday meal, just the relatives and a few friends. No plastic plates, she insists, only couches, pillows, and warm food. So they gather in their small living room, laughter filling the air as they share seconds. Candles flicker, music plays softly, and love wraps around them like a cozy blanket. No one asks why they aren't at Veronica's, and the silence speaks volumes. A message from their mother arrives, brief and distant. "Hope you're well. Miss you sometimes." The words linger, but there's no anger, only peace. They've learned that seeking love from those who don't know how to give it is a waste. Instead, they focus on giving love to themselves, watching how it transforms everything. There's power in walking away from what doesn't serve you. There's power in building your own table. And sometimes, when you least expect it, the world shows up with a limousine, reminding you that just because they didn't see your worth doesn't mean it wasn't there. It was. It always was. Maybe being sent to the storage area wasn't the insult she thought it was. Maybe it was the spotlight she didn't know she needed. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever felt small, invisible, or not good enough, know that you're not alone. You never were. We all deserve a seat at the table. But if they won't make space for you, build your own. Trust me, the right people will show up.